Kurt Barickman. This is part of my collection that I've been working on since I've been about 10 years old. I collect mostly World War II, mostly Marines, and mostly units from Europe that were in heavy combat, like airborne and paratrooper units. It's largely a collection of history, with the uniforms are just reflecting that history of the individuals. I've always thought it interesting that I could go down the street, go around the block, and find somebody who had participated in these unbelievable events that changed human history, and I could find him right in my neighborhood. This is Merlin Tesius, who was in the 60mm Mortar Squad of I Company, 3rd Battalion, 6th Marine Regiment, 2nd Marine Division, World War II. Merlin won the Presidential Unit Citation, as did the whole 2nd Division. That was given by the President's order when a unit was in an extremely horrific battle. Also noticed Merlin's Pacific Theater ribbon. He has 3 different stars for each of the 3 major campaigns he participated in: Tarawa, Saipan, and Tinian.
December 12th, 1942, I got sworn in the Marine Corps. And I was 19 when I went in. And I got discharged on 13th of December, 1945. I had a lieutenant we called Bunny Rabbit, and he had the right idea. As soon as we jumped out of the Amtrak, get off the beach, because they were sighted in with their artillery. And the beach was just like a red-hot cook stove. It was so hot. And anybody who was killed on there, within a couple hours, you couldn't even pull the helmet off their head. They were completely black. And they had lots of snipers that was up in the palm trees, but the time we got to the end of the campaign, there wasn't a palm tree left standing. They just blew them up. We seen about 5 of these Japanese tanks coming up, and the riflemen, then they caught up with us, hollered at us, why didn't we wait for them? But the ones that did get hit on the beach with artillery, they hollered for the bazookas to come up, and good thing they had them. They knocked them tanks out, just knocked them flat. But man, I'll tell you, it was no fun to see them tanks in the lines with us before the bazookas got there. Stood behind a tree I don't think was over 8 inches around to make sure we didn't get hit. I don't know how long I've been in the color guard, but lots of funerals, and we had one down to Conger. This preacher told us in his sermon that they were the boys from World War II that went through the Depression, and they knew how to work and they knew how to fight. And when they come back, after their discharge, they put their clothes back, overalls back on, and he says they went back to work, never thought no more about it.
These are the 3 Marine Corps officer uniforms that belong to Carlisle B. Lageson. He was a Marine Corps pilot. He rose to the rank of captain during World War II. He was a scout bomber pilot in Squadron 234, but mostly did his combat service in Scout Bomber Squad 236. He won the Air Medal and for the isolation of Rabaul, which was a major Japanese air, land, and naval base. After the war, he continued in the Marine Corps Reserves and retired in 1978 with the rank of colonel.
Well, I started back in 1940. I'd been traveling on the road with a Minneapolis firm, and I came home. One of the local, actually a World War I pilot, was running a program sponsored by the government. I took that course and finished it, and I remember that Ernie kept saying, well, you're going in the Navy. Actually, I went up July 3rd of 41, and went back July 19th and finished my physical.
What was it like to be on a bombing run? What was it like to be a pilot during a bombing run on Japanese-held territory? They were trying to shoot at you and hit you.
Well, it got a little wild once in a while.
I'm sure it did.
You had a lot of planes in the air. Occasional, there was mid-air. Mm-hmm. Occasionally you'd lose somebody, watch them not pull out of the dive. And otherwise, it got to be, dare I say, routine, that we'd go out on these missions, on targets, shipping, airfields, whatever targets there were. One time, south of Rabaul, we were assigned an area, and I was supposed to go in and hit any gun positions I could find in a dive bombing attitude, that is, a vertical dive. And I was supposed to protect a friend of mine, Walt, because he was carrying incendiaries and had to go in a glide bombing attitude. Well, I could never see a gun position, so I switched over to a building. And when I got back, Walt was a little perturbed. He said, "Why didn't you hit that gun position?" I said, "I didn't see one." Well, he says, "He was shooting at me." Well, I said, "Did I hit that building?" "Yes," he said, "It looked like a flying lumberyard when I went by."
Another veteran from Albert Lea is Chester Dahl. He served with Headquarters Company, 2nd Battalion, the 41st Armored Infantry Regiment of the 2nd Armored Division, also known as Hell on Wheels. Chester participated in this very important yet little-known battle, the breakout in Normandy. What happened was his division was so successful in getting behind some very, very well-trained, well-equipped, and battle-hardened German soldiers. So in the middle of the night of dead is how Mark Bando, historian and author, has called it, the 2nd Armored were like being overrun almost by all these German SS troops trying to run away or escape surrender and escape being surrounded there. So it's a very important battle as it led right into the breakout. The Great Normandy breakout. Most people know about General Patton breaking out there, but they don't know how it happened before. And Chester Dahl played an important role in that battle.
That was Death Night, they called it, when the Germans were trying to break out. We had 40-some thousand Germans trying to get out of Normandy. And they broke through us at night. They got mixed up with us. Didn't know who to shoot and what to say. So I got on the 50 caliber machine gun, and I was looking down a hedgerow, and there was a building on fire. And every time a German would come around the end of the hedgerow, well, I could see him on the fire. So I went through 21 boxes of ammunition that night. This is a picture of Griffith and another guy. Griffith, he rode in my half-track. And his job was to get maps for everybody every day. Patton was walking around in water up to his hips. He came over to me and he said, "Soldier, did you waterproof this vehicle?" And I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "You lying son of a bitch." and he walked around and he pulled the colonel right in the ocean. He asked him if he was afraid he was going to get wet. This is the Purple Heart with a cluster. I got wounded twice. This here is the Normandy Medal. This is the Bronze Star. That's when I was 19 years old there.
This is the Army officer nurse uniform of Ruth Pleiss. Ruth was a nurse and served in several hospitals in the States tending to wounded as they were brought back from Europe. She was a 2nd lieutenant by her officer bars. Notice her hat, very distinctive hat for female Army officers. And the catechus on her shoulder with the N in the middle for nurse. Ruth passed away. She lived in Albert Lea after the war and passed away about 3 years ago.